Today's video is going to be on these Lori Holt bags. This is actually one from the last time we got the bags in, and then I have the new ones up on my website and my comment sold store. So if you don't line the bags, I just think it makes a more useful bag to have a lining in it, and that way when you quilt it, it really pops. So the quilting doesn't have to be a lot. So on this particular one, I went around like the little figurines, this butterfly, but not this. I did the perimeter here. I didn't do a ton. You don't even really need to do anything on the top piece. Now I'm going to flip it over, and then you'll see this one. It was really easy for me to decide what to do, as I just did the squares, but I went all the way down so that this little square would get outlined as well, and then I went this way. If you wanted to add more, it would be so easy just to go like this. So these bags, there's just so much you can do with them, okay? I like them lined, okay? You can experiment depending on the design that's on yours, and you can round the corners if you want to make a more like a designer bag. You can also pinch it and box the corners if you want it to be a bag that'll actually stand up while you put things in, or make it a little fluffier. A lot of different ways that you can do it. Now we sell them with the lining, and then you can decide what you want to put in for the filler. This particular one I used fusible fleece, and I love fusible fleece. But this next one that I'm going to be making, I'm going to actually be using single-sided bosal on the back, because I wanted to see what that would do as far as the body goes of the bag. All right. I'll be talking about how to make these tabs as well. So first thing you do is you cut the bag out. This is the front of the next bag that I'm going to be making. And when you cut the bag out, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have only 1/4 of an inch of this white. Okay, this is not a selvage. This tells you where to put your zipper in. So I left 1/4 of an inch here and 1/4 of an inch there. Okay, so then what I did is I cut the fusible fleece to fit. Now you could easily, you know, if you're working with a bigger piece of fusible fleece, you can fuse it to the whole back side of this piece before you go ahead and do that. And then I should tell you that then I put the back on it, because when I quilt, I want it to be quilted through the back. Oh, I don't know if you can see how it's quilted through the back, okay? And then around the perimeter, after I turn them right side out, you can just run a zigzag stitch. I actually did this one on the serger just to finish it off, okay? All around the perimeter. All right, so that's how you prepare the front. So now I'll lay the lining fabric for the front. I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to have to press this before I sew. And then I'm going to put this exactly on top of it. And I can spray it if I want. Usually with fusible fleece you don't get a lot of movement, but I can use spray here or Elmer's glue just to tack it, or throw a couple pins in it. So then I have to decide how I want to quilt this one. It doesn't need a lot of quilting, so just for my preliminary looking at it, I'm definitely going to go around this big motif here. I may also go around the center one, and I'll go around the outside here, maybe these two, maybe the outside here, maybe the center one here. I might just do this circle too. Throw some green thread in there and do the circle, or just go on both sides of the circle and use a cream thread. So it's just whatever you want it to be. If you don't want to outline anything, you can do just a couple of lines going diagonally. You can come through it and do like a swoosh. It doesn't need a lot. It's a bag. Well, it's definitely not a prom dress, that's for sure. So that's how I'm going to get that all prepared. So when I come back on for the video, those pieces will be prepared. I'll show you how to get the zipper in. And then the back here is the one that I'm going to use the fusible foam. Now, I prefer the single-sided fusible. Okay, this is rough, so this is my fusible. I am able to, with the single-sided fusible, lay it on my table. This is batting tape, and I put the two pieces together, okay? And then this just irons down and then I can use it in my bag. Nobody would be able to tell that that's there. It's going to feel just as nice. But if this was a double-sided fusible, putting this tape down, I would never be able to get in there with my iron. It would just make a mess. It's more versatile. I don't throw any little pieces like this out. I tape them all together. I've been known to Frankenstein quite a bit of the single-sided fusible. So this is the fusible side. And just like the fusible fleece, I don't iron directly onto that. I put my backing on, okay? And I can just tack it with the iron in a couple spaces by taking the iron, pressing it down, lifting it up, pressing it down, lifting it up, pressing it down. Once I do that, then I'll trim the perimeter of it, and then I'll go through and I'll really spend the time to make sure that I get it right to the edge and seal the bozel all the way down. Once that's sealed and cut to fit, then I'm going to spray this side. I'm going to adhere this to it. This doesn't have to be quilted in any way, shape, or form like the front, but you know what? The reason that I chose this for the lining fabric is I'm not going to even have to mark it. I'm just going to go up here and go every other and quilt it in a diagonal grid, and it'll go really fast. Or, let's flip it around, you could use it in the same way here, but it's not going to be a straight line. You know, you're going to have to come up and going through those little squares. So, or I can just go shh, shh, and I'm done. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot, whatever you want to make it to do it. So once I get this quilted and this quilted, then I'm going to put the zipper in, and I'll be able to show you how we put the whole thing together. This is going to be video number 2. So the reason I like Janome machines is their free motion foot does not hop up and down. They do have a hop up and down one, but they have one that glides, okay? And if you would like a price on a Janome machine that has a gliding foot, I can look and see which is the best way for you to go. But this foot will glide. So what I do is I snap that foot on, and then I use this button here to drop the presser foot. The feed dogs are down. I move this fabric and I see how it feels. Right now I feel this foot not hitting the fabric. So I go over to the machine and I hit this up arrow, and this button here will lower the presser foot. And when I click off of this stitch, it'll go back to the default settings. So now what I feel, just with those 2 clicks, I feel a tad bit of drag on my fabric. It's perfect for helping you to balance your stitch length. It's perfect for free motion quilting. I also have a ruler foot that I can use with this, and I also have a stitch regulator that I can use with this particular machine. And this is the Memorycraft 9480 Professional. Now, so I'm going to go over to here, and when you free motion quilt, you drop your needle down, you bring your needle up, and then you pull the bobbin thread up to the top, okay, so that you don't end up knotting that in your underside. I like to use a very slow speed when I free motion quilt because I'm doing the driving. I'm managing the stitch length. So this is without the needle, without the stitch regulator, and I'm just like I'm tracing it with thread. And again, don't say, hey Marie, I don't like and I'm just going to do a back tack here. I don't do well with free motion quilting. Well, this is where you want to practice, my friend. You want to practice on something like this because it's very forgiving, number one, and it's very easy to do. I'm going to move to the next section. I'm actually just going to do a couple stitches in place because it doesn't matter on this particular thing. It's not a quilt that's going off to Paducah land. See how nice and slow? And I do have my gloves right handy to my right or to my left where I could slip those on real quick too. Do a couple stitches in place, and then I'm going to start. Now they do have, this machine also comes with the open toe free motion foot, which would give you just a little bit better visibility. So for doing this type of work, the Janome 9480 and the M8 are the best machines I think that are made for this type of work. They both come with a stitch regulator. They have these same type of open toe feet that work with the stitch regulator, and it just makes going around these motifs extremely simple. You stop every once in a while, hold the fabric until the needle stops moving, and then you can continue. So if you feel like you're twisting your arms in a way that you don't want to twist them, and just make up your mind that none of this is going to get ripped out. You're just going to keep going, and it's going to be beautiful. And again, this is the oh, now her name lost. All right, I'm getting back to the beginning. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a little bit, and I'll back tack just a little bit, and I'll cut it with my thread. So, pardon? No, it's not Tilda. It's Lori Holt for Zippy bags. So you can see it on the back. I've got a little bit of threads there to trim. Barely see it on the back. But again, just make up your mind that you're going to do it. Okay, it's going to be beautiful, and you're going to do it. I never liked free motion quilting, but most of the time when I didn't like the free motion quilting, most of the time it was a plain piece of fabric and I had to come up with my own design. This is a good place to practice because you don't have to come up with your own design. You have these motifs that you can just, and now that I've done this one and this one, I am going to go ahead and do this one. I mean, I'm talking about another 30 seconds of stitching, so why not? So I'm probably going to put a lot of stitching into this, and then I'll come back and do a little zipper video. Another reason why I like this machine is it has a pull-out light. It puts more light on my surface. All right, here's my front, and I did some quilting around the different motifs. And here's my zipper. Now, I typically like the zippers to be long enough that I don't have to worry about the heads or this metal piece down at this end, okay? These are just a little bit shorter than I'm used to, but we're just gonna go with it. Now, generally, I don't pin the zipper in. I do have some pins here just so that I can move my hands out of the way, okay? I'm just gonna put a couple of pins in it just so that I can move my hands out of the way. All right, now, you don't have to do this. I put a little black line here just so you could see what I was talking about. This is where the zipper teeth are. You can see them here. But you know, you see a little thread there, but I darkened it so you'd have a better way to look at it. Okay, the bag itself has to be about 1/4 inch, no more, or else this whiteness is going to show once you get your zipper sewed in. So I line it up. I want this metal piece so it gets cut off. I don't want it part of my bag. And I do use the standard zigzag foot. So Donnie's going to come in nice and close so that you can see the left side of my foot is going to go right on top of that zipper. Okay. So that metal piece, I'm going to come in a little bit. So I'm kind of watching. Now, if your machine is different, you're just going to, I'm going to take these pins out now. If your machine is different, you've just got to find that happy spot. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride the top of those zipper teeth. My foot is sitting a little crooked, but with the great feed dogs that these machines have, I don't have an issue with that. And then the foot is off maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And this is going to be my first, I'm going to go around this, and then if it doesn't get in there right, then I'll do it again. But, let me slow it down a little bit. But if I put pins in it and I use a zipper foot, the zipper foot goes against the teeth and then it pushes the zipper, so it kind of defeats your purpose. I used to hand baste every zipper that I put in. I'd hand baste it first. And life's too short for all that hand basting, so just put that foot right up on top of those teeth, just like I've got them. I'm going to come down here as far as I can and cut my threads. And now is a good time to peek because I don't want any of that white rim showing, and it doesn't. It looks perfect. And then I'm going to move these 2 zipper heads down, back this way. And then I'm going to finish the rest of it. Now you can do a back tack if you want. And cut my thread. Now, what happens on this side here, here's your seam allowance. And you're going to make the zipper go up and the seam allowance go down. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it from the inside. So I'll bring my zipper heads down here first. I'm going to lay it on the sewing machine. So you see my zipper is to the right. I'm going to force this seam allowance over. Okay? And what that's going to do now, once I get my fingers out of the way, put the foot right on the edge. All right. Now I'm going to sew right on the edge of the zipper tape, which is going to hold the zipper tape down, and it will finish so that raw edge isn't there. And I don't have to serge that edge. I just want to push this down and over. And I'm going to be using the edge of the zipper as a finishing step for the inside of my bag. And it'll make a nice neat bag. And then I can just come down here. I can move the heads down if I want, but I'm just going to leave it just like that. So on this side, I've got a beautiful zipper. I double check to make sure it zips, because that's half the battle. And on this side, it looks all finished. So now I'm going to do the other piece. Here's the top that goes on top of the zipper for these Lori Holt Zippy bags. And I will make sure that my website is up there, and you can just type in Zippy bags, probably Lori Holt, just about anything to be able to get it. All right, so I'm going to start on this side. So I'm going to pull my stoppers down. I'm going to make sure that it's not bigger than here. So it's just perfect. Look at that, just perfect. And then I'm going to come up here. So the edge of the zipper teeth, if it overshadows that just a hair, that's fine too. So now I'm going to drop my foot and I'm going to center it just a hair off there. Okay, and then I need to stop and realign. So you'll have to comment on this video if you've never rode the rail with your sewing machine. This is a type of zipper that you can sew through. I would not suggest this with a metal zipper, just in case you get off kilter and you hit it with the needle. Let's flip it up and look at it. Well, that looks perfect, doesn't it? Do you see how I quilted this in diagonal lines? And I didn't cut the thread at the end of each row. I just traveled down. Now that'll all be in the seam allowance. Nobody will see that, but it was a lot quicker than cutting your thread and restarting all those number of times. So now what I have to do is I have to flip it over. I'm going to get the zipper heads down here. I'm going to force the zipper to go up. And I'm going to come along here and stitch that down to give it a nice finished look. The zipper will open and close beautifully. And if you purchase one of these panels, the way that I sell them with 4 large bags and 4 small bags. The lining is in your package and the 8 zippers that you're going to need for the bags, okay? The instructions are on there to do them not lined, but I have to say having a little more body and having it all finished like that to me is the bee's knees. Alrighty, so I'm going to just turn it sideways now, and can you see that metal thing right there? that has to be cut off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the edge of my bag, and I'm going to stitch around down that end right through the zipper. Go back and forth a couple of times. And now I can cut that off without worrying that the heads will come off. And down at this side, I'm going to do the same thing, because I'm going to trim the zipper even with the edge of the bag. So I'm going to come right up here, and I'm going to go back and forth over the zipper teeth. Again, don't do this with a metal zipper. And that'll stitch it in there, and then I can trim this off. Your final step in your beautiful bag is to open the zippers. I'm going to leave a couple inches on each side. Here's your tab. I just sewed that in a 1/4 inch seam allowance, flipped it right side up, and I come down here maybe about an inch, inch and a half, and I'll pin that. I didn't realize this chair was going to creak that much. I'll pin that, and I'll sew that on at the same time as I'm going around, and what I do is I back tack on that a couple of times. So you're going to put it right sides together. This is the right side, and this is the right side of the back. I'm going to put them right sides together. I'm going to pin it all the way around. I'm going to sew it in a 1/4 inch all the way around and flip it right side up. I'll clip my corners, and you'll have a beautiful bag. I'll do one more video as I'm flipping it. Okay, I've sewed all the way around my pouch, my zipper bag. I've trimmed the seam allowance and reinforced it here where the zipper tab is. And I have the zipper open part way, so I can get my hand in here and open the zipper the rest of the way. So then you just reach in. Now remember, I put the foam on the back side of this one, so this one's going to be a little thicker. But that's okay. I was trying to experiment. And I didn't grab my point pusher outer. If you don't have that tool, you'll definitely want it. The RNK turning tool is my favorite. I cut the corners on the diagonal, and they will push out. Now the foam is going to give it a little more bulk, so I really need to get in there with my turning tool to push out those corners. The reason I like that one is it's got a ball on the end, and it really doesn't push through. Okay, so there is my bag. Now my favorite thing about these bags, and I will see what I can find. Okay, sometimes I go to meetings, or sometimes I have an appointment with an accountant or a lawyer. These papers in the file folder will put right in there. And then I'm all set to go. I know what I need to grab and what's in there to make my trip. Enjoy your Zippy bags. I hope you have fun with them. I'm going to poke my corners out, give it a final press, and it'll be ready. Thanks for watching.